welcome everyone for learning how to do a tax return within our desktop product. And today we're going to be covering a few different areas. So we'll cover navigating through the desktop. There may be some new faces to us here at CrossLink, so I just want to make sure we all know the lay of the land, how to complete a tax return, and then using our mobile app of TaxPass. So we're navigating through CrossLink Desktop. We do open up to our work in progress summary page. So what is exactly the lay of the land we'll be covering when I go into the software will be the dashboard, which provides you access to all the information you need to track for your tax office. Program tabs that where you can switch if you have both the 1040 package and the corporate package. The menu bar, where you can see an array of different setup options that you can set up and have ready for you for the beginning of season. And then we have the toolbar. And that toolbar, which we call our function keys, really dictate a lot of different areas when you're working within the tax return. And we do want to note that when we're outside of a return and inside of a tax return, those function keys do change. So just pay attention as I go into the program right now, how we're going to be accessing all of this. So just give me one moment. And we're going to bring up the software here. So we do have CrossLink 2022 available, and I just wanted to start off with going ahead and opening the software. And we do have two-factor turned on to our software this year. So it is optional when you are installing. You can turn it on and off. But as you see here, once I do log in, sorry about that. We're going to be presented with our code. Now, I do have the Google Authenticator app on my phone. That's what we use to get that two-step verification code. And as you see, as I enter it there, then I would be presented within the software. Anytime you open up CrossLink, we are at our work in progress summary page. And as I said, we have 6 cues here that let you know the different stages of your tax business. I'm just going to briefly describe each one because, of course, the most important piece today is the tax return. So at the tax returns queue, 2 things to point out here is when you click on select a return, that's always going to open up your client list. This is your book of business. As you click this go button, it's going to show you the different clients you have and the tax returns you have started, completed, finalized. This will always show your client page. When we click back on the work in progress page, then we go back to our dashboard here with the 6 cues. I'll touch on TaxPass mobile app retrieval towards the end of the call, because if you do want to use our TaxPass app, this is how we will import those returns. If you are printing any checks from one of our 2 banks that prints within the software, which are TPG and Republic Bank, this is your printing queue. You will always be notified at the end of each line item on these different queues if there's something that you need to pay attention to. So if you have a check to print, you'll see numbers accruing there. Software updates. Anytime we update our software, this line item is always going to show you what updates or how many updates you have available to do. Best practice, go ahead and transmit every morning and apply your updates. We may not have an update every morning, but especially with the start of season, I definitely recommend you doing it at least every morning. I just touched on a transmission queue. That is where you will be able to send off your tax returns to the IRS and also pick up your software updates. So go ahead and make sure we always click on transmit to central site, or as you see here on our function keys of the toolbar, we do have transmit at the top. Exceptions and rejects. If you see any line items here, this is really drawing your attention that you need to pay attention to either a federal reject, a state reject, and so on. So this way you know you can fix those tax returns and get them sent off again. So anytime you see numbers there, go ahead and click on that category, and it's going to open up to those returns for you. And then the last queue here is called quick reports. You can add any custom reports that you do build within the software to this queue here, so it can easily be at the touch of your mouse, I should say. When anytime you click on it, it's going to load that report for you. As you see there, I clicked on my client lookup list, and I've only have 2 returns, so it will build every single time you generate the report and you add your tax returns, it automatically gets added to you there. So let's get started with going over, I mentioned our menu tabs at the top. As you see, we have 3 tabs. We have 1040 returns, which are your individual tax returns. Then if you do purchase the business package, so all you have to do to access it is click on the business returns. Now the business package is not released yet, so not quite yet are we going to be clicking on that, but just know that's where you will access those corporate returns. And then you see website. Website can bring us right now, it brings us to CrossLinkTax.com, but we do have a way of within your setup that you can add additional website tabs if you would like to. So just know those are your different tabs and how you get to the 2 different packages within the desktop application. Below that, you have our series of menus. The menus, database, and setup are going to be comprised of your preliminary setups when you do install the software. So adding your EFINs and your preparers would be under the database menu. Adding setup would be all the other setups that you need to go through. So that's where you want to pay attention to that area. Below that, we have our toolbar. On each toolbar, we have function keys. And as you see, our 2 most important function keys are add new, because that starts the new tax return, and also our transmission function key, because that's how we can also send tax returns out. To start a tax return, we will go ahead and either click on select a return as I stated, or I can click on add new. Once you click on add new, you're going to be prompted to enter a social. And I'm just going to put in a dummy social here and I'll click OK. You can, if you do have a taxpayer who does not have a social security number, you can generate a W-7, which is for an ITIN. Oh, we got to make sure our socials match. Once I click OK, you are now going to be opened onto our client data screen. So again, sticking with the lay of the land real quick, now that we're inside of a tax return, our main menu here is going to be the current form that you are working on or that you've opened. On the left-hand side, we have our attached forms area. Under general, you'll see different tools and options that we do provide for you to have access to or forms to see, such as the information and status form. I'll actually click into those in a moment. We do want to set our filing status. So as you saw, anytime I try to click without setting my filing status right here in the middle of the page, I can't do that until I enter in my filing status. So for right now, I'm going to stick with the 1, which if we don't know, we look below, and that's called single, 2 is married filing joint, 3 married filing separate, 4 head of household, and so on. So whenever you're looking at a field item, go ahead and look below. And now we are giving you those points on what the software is looking for, or the field is looking for. So I went ahead and I entered a 1 so I can continue showing you the different areas. So the information and status is going to be really handy after you start transmitting your returns. This page is going to keep you on track and show you the different statuses of your tax return when it's been acknowledged by the bank or the federal or state return. And then we have like our document archive and our remote signatures and text messaging. These are all features that you have to help you be a paperless office and communicate with your taxpayers. Okay. On the top, we have our function keys. So as you noticed on our work in progress page, those function keys were maybe about 5 keys there. When you're inside the tax return, there's a bunch more here where we have anywhere from add a form to chatting with technical support. We have our interview mode where you can do a return with a guided method. Right now I am going to do the return with what's called our forms based. So forms based, I'm going to fill out our client data screen and add our forms. Interviewed is going to bring you through a guided process and helping you through the tax return. So now that I noticed we had our function keys at the top, our menus did stay up there, so you do have the same menu options. So when I'm looking at my client data screen here, which is the main page that we opened up to, once I enter in our date of birth here, I am going to tab through. So I'm just going to put in a name here. And when we hit tab or enter, the program is going through everything. So I can just keep clicking through the different areas that I want to fill out. And I'm entering a cell phone right now because we do offer text messaging throughout our application. So you can text message your taxpayers, and you can also email them a copy of their tax return. So in order to do so, as you see here, I am on the line item that says text message, and we want to opt them in. I'll click X or enter, and now it's saying that they have agreed and they're notified that you're going to be sending them a text message. And now you want to enter in their carrier. Anytime that you look below and you see this blue button called Choices populate, that means we have a dynamic database behind the scenes, and you can actually choose item off of that database. So we do populate all the codes for you here. And then we will actually auto-save bank routing numbers for you, EIN numbers, and so on. So this way you can save time in going through the tax return and auto-populate that information. So as I finish up our client data screen here, we are now going to notice that I am now at my filing status. And for today, I was going to do 4 for head of household, so we could see some EIC populate for us. So I want to change my filing status to a 4, head of household. And now, as you notice, it did bypass the spouse information and brought me right back to my address info. So we are making you fill out your required fields here. Enter in the bank account information if your taxpayer wanted to receive direct deposit. Again, I can click Choices because I have a preloaded bank in here and click OK. And then you would just enter in the bank routing number. I do have something that was called double entry validation. So this is something you can set in your office setup to make sure that you are typing the correct information for your taxpayer's information here. So it will want you to type that in twice. For today, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to actually show you the different options we have available. Client referral. If you keep track of your marketing strategies, you can, of course, have some automatically added within that database menu here. You can go to database and then referral types, and then you can actually add in your different marketing strategies, whether they be social media or radio ads, flyers, referral. You can keep track of that and run reports and see what marketing strategy is running best for you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put SM for social media, and then I'll put Facebook. I had a Facebook post, and that's what I'm tracking right now. Marketplace, if you did purchase, if your taxpayer purchased any healthcare by the marketplace, then you're going to go ahead and mark an X here and then fill out the questionnaire. Once you mark that X, it will automatically add to the tax return here. So I'll go ahead and mark that, and now that you saw that brought me right into the Affordable Care Act questionnaire, and that's also located here on our attached forms list right on the general section. So I'm going to go back to our client data, and I'm going to finish up down below. The last thing for me to enter in is a dependent. So we're just filling in their birthday here. So the program, anytime you see any dark gray fields, those are calculated fields. You shouldn't ever have to fill that out or override it. We are doing a calculation for you behind the scenes. So now 1 month, it's asking how many months taxpayers lived with, how many dependents lived with the taxpayer. I put 12. And then now you see that it populated the codes for me. If you don't know these codes, again, you could click Choices, and now it's populating for you. 1, dependent live with the taxpayer. If there's something different, you can change it. And then the codes here are showing you eligible, student, disabled, kidnapped, or none. So we are triggering those codes for you automatically, and you will now be running for the EIC behind the scenes. Now you notice under our federal, so you see federal in red right now because I don't have any income on the return. And then we have our 1040. We do always populate the 8879 for you. And then the 8867, which is your preparer due diligence, automatically populated as well. So we do have forms that pre-populate as you're going through the return. Your next step, I said we'll cover 9 steps, right? So that was step 1, your client data screen, filling out that information. Step 2, is adding your primary and your secondary forms. To do so, all I did was click on the Add Form button on the top left of the function keys. We always open up to our federal tab, our federal forms, and I can search for any form name or number down below here, or I can actually go to my Index tab and I can search maybe keywords. You may still be learning, or if you have preparers that are just starting out, and I can start typing out child, and then as you see here, the child care forms are going to start showing for me. So Index is like a keyword search. Federal tab is knowing the name and a number. So I'm going to start off with our W-2. Now I'm here. It looks just like the form. I do have my choices menu. I can preload an EIN that I already had. And now populated all that information for me. And now I can go ahead and put in some wages and my tax withheld. And now I fill out my W-2. Of course, if they have state information or, Social Security, you're always going to go ahead and you fill in your boxes here. As you see, my Schedule 8812 has automatically populated. That is new to fill out this year with the EIC tax credit. And the payments being mailed out to everyone. So that is auto adding for you guys. I know that will be a question. And then moving forward, if you had any other forms, a Schedule C, for example, all you have to do is go ahead and scroll down and double click and those forms will add. If you had a state, all you have to do is click on the State tab. You have all 50 states available for you. You just choose which state you need, and then you add the state forms. Very easy. And again, I'll just go over that step again, adding your preliminary, secondary, or state forms. You click Add a Form, and the window will pop up. You have your federal tab and your state tab. Once you finalize your W-2, I always like to say, let's go to our 8879, because that's how we are declaring how the taxpayer wants to receive their refund. We have our different options laid out at the very top for you here. We're saying 1 is a check from the IRS, 2 is a direct deposit from the IRS, 3 reserved, 4 balance due, and 5 is a bank application. So if you plan on doing any pre-acts, any RT, any refund transfers from any of our 4 banks, go ahead and you will need to mark a number 5 in this box here where it says refund type. You're not marking here. I said the dark gray fields are your calculated fields. So now once I mark that 5, an X will populate. When we get ready a little bit later during the season, you will have bank applications released to the software. Once you mark the 5, you will see a bank application automatically add on here the left-hand side of your attached forms. That's when you know you can go ahead and start submitting your bank applications. We currently don't have them in the software right now, so I am going to switch back to just doing a number 1, which is a check from the IRS. And as you see, I was thinking I was going to do a bank application. You will get this question, do you want to remove the bank application? We'll click yes. And it is warning you to make sure you do collect your preparation fees directly from the taxpayer, and the IRS will distribute the refund directly to the taxpayer. So we are bringing that warning to make sure you get your fees. And I'll go over that. So I marked the 1 from how we're getting our refund to our taxpayer. And then as you scroll down, a lot of this information is going to be auto-filled out, again, due to the setup that you guys can do when you install the software. It will populate your taxpayer's PIN numbers. We have my preparer information all filled out as well. And then our 8879 is complete. We are going to take a look at our 1040, because our 1040 can also be another way of doing a tax return. Maybe you don't want to go through the add forms. You could be doing taxes for a long time, and you just like working down to 1040 here. So we do have what's called form links available in the software. So as you see, I clicked on line 1, and I do have my income that's driving from the W-2, but we do have that blue button down below now highlighted that's called form links. When I click on that, it is going to add the secondary forms or associated forms with that line item. So you can go ahead and choose that form, and then it will populate the information for you. So that is the second way you could do a tax return. I showed the first way. What we're doing is adding your forms through the function key. If you like working down to 1040, you could go straight to the 1040, and you can go ahead and click on the form link, and as you see, it brought me back to that W-2. And you can see as you click on these different options here, form links are always highlighted, showing at the bottom here anytime you click on that line item. We do have a few questions we do need to answer that are mandatory, such as the virtual currency question that started last season. We're going to double click. I do double click on my mouse to auto fill that X, or you can type an X on your keyboard. And then scrolling down, we do have our stimulus question that we still need to answer, which is on line 30. And I'm marking that we did receive all payments, and we marked that X. So now that I have added the W-2, I went through our 8879, and then I worked through our 1040 in answering those questions. Now I will click Verify, which is one of our function keys at the very top here. Verify is always going to bring up any errors that we have within the tax return. And as you see here, we have some errors from our client data screen or some client information. We have our 8812, which is that new schedule that we need to do for the advanced child tax credit. And then as you see, I have my 8867, which is my prepare due diligence. So with our Verify, we do have what's called point and shoot error correction. So as I click on the item or the field, it is bringing me directly to the field that I need to fix. So I need to make sure that they're going to sign the 8879, and I mark an X. And I click Enter on my keyboard. Click Enter again. And throughout entering in the driver's license information, I missed marking what kind of ID type this was. So I'm going to put a D for driver's license, and I'm just going to work through these. Now, these are some questions here that we have. Did I enroll do I want to purchase Protection Plus? Does my taxpayer give consent to receive and sign their documentation remotely? Which, if we don't know, you can actually opt in to our remote signature service program, and that's sending a text message or an email to your taxpayers, and they can sign and review their documents. So I can mark a Y, which means yes, that they do want to sign their tax documents remotely, and I'll click Enter again. So I'm going to take out this routing number. So I'm making a change because we did say I was going to do a check. So anytime you make a change like that during Verify, it is really good for us to go ahead and now let's click Refresh. That's another keyboard function key on the top toolbar that anytime you make a change, as you saw, I took out the routing number, or I make a change on an income on the W-2, hit refresh. It's going to refresh exactly what it does behind the scenes, any calculations or deleting any information that you need off the tax return. So just that is a nice tip there. Anytime you're adding or removing, you want to refresh it just refreshes the calculations. So I'm going to click back on Verify. I'm going to go back to my 8812 here, and it is asking me 14F is now stating if I have received my letters for any payments for the advanced child tax credit, I need to put in the amount that was paid to me. If I did not receive any child tax credit payments, then you will mark the box here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the marking of the box for today. And then I'll click Enter. And now I'm working on my 8867. So with the 8867, I definitely recommend with any EIC or prepare due diligence checklist, let your preparers go through it and verify. It's going to bring them to the questions that they need to answer. As they're reading the questions, then they can mark yes or no, which one of course applies. So I'm going to go ahead and go through these. And as you see how quick and easy, of course I'm not taking, the few seconds I would to be reading the question here, but that's what we'll all do, right? And we're going to mark the ones that are applicable. But I just love how our Verify really is bringing me directly to the question, making me read it, marking the answer, and I don't need to keep clicking. Again, everything I'm just clicking Tab and X on my keyboard here, and it's going to bring me through everything. Nice and easy. So now it looks like I've completed my Verify, and I'm going to click that one more time, and I did miss one. So I'm just going to mark that. I'll hit Close, and then we'll verify one more time. And this is what we want to see. Return verified successfully. Now I'm ready to transmit, print, gather signatures because we fixed all the errors on the tax return. Before you go ahead and you start printing and transmitting these returns, I would recommend that we go ahead and take a look at a few options. So we have our invoice. Your invoice will tell you what your taxpayer owes for your preparation fees. You could set up your invoice formally through our setup, billing setup, and that would take care of right here, setup, billing setup. And I can set my pricing per form if I would like to under the form billing tab. And I'm just going to put a flat fee here of, let's say, $150 for my 1040 return. So that means every time a 1040 is on the tax return, it's going to automatically add $150 to the invoice. And if I go to my W-2 and I add $10, every time a W-2 is added, it's going to add $10 to the invoice. I'll go and hit OK. I'm just going to call this default billing. Hit OK here. And now I'm going to actually trigger an action on my return because I did my setup during the tax return. So I would actually go to return and then what's called reload billing. And then my fees can automatically appear here on the invoice for us. So that is how you set up your billing setup. And then when you do set that up, you're going to go ahead and you are going to see on the bottom here your itemized billing. And this is just to make sure that you are gathering your preparation fees, especially if you're not doing a bank product. So this way your taxpayer is paying you directly. We do have a few ways how you can capture that payment. You can go ahead and hit the Payments tab on the function key. We do have several ways. If you're just doing a reporting method, maybe use Cash Apps or any type of payment, Square, anything like that, then you're just recording it here. Our program doesn't physically take a payment unless you do partner with PayJunction. PayJunction is a partner company that we work with where you can work with them to offer credit card merchant service programs, and you can capture their payment, and it's integrated with our software. If you're not with them, then our Payments tab is strictly a reporting tool. You will simply report that Tim has paid his fees on the tax return, and then you can run reports on who has paid and who has not paid. So just know our Payments tab is a reporting tool. It doesn't physically take that payment unless we are using PayJunction. Okay, so going back to our steps, right? We covered our client data screen. We covered our add forms. We covered our 8879. We covered verify, which goes through our error correction. We covered how we gather our payments on our invoice. So now we are here for our last few steps where we can print and sign. So to gather your signatures, we would always go to our print menu, which is not available yet, guys. As you see, it's not available yet, so just give me a moment as I switch into last year's software so I can demonstrate this. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to go into a return here, not that one. And we're going to click on our print menu. Now when you get to your print menu, you do have a few options here. You can hard print the tax return. If your taxpayers are physically next to you in your office, they can electronically sign using a signature pad or on-screen signature. But if they are away from you, they're home, you're remote, you have a taxpayer in a different state, then you can choose what's called remote sign. As long as you've opted in for our remote signature service program, you will click remote sign. Then you're going to say, is anybody in office? If they are not in the office, then you're going to click OK. You're not going to check this box. No one is in office. Then you will be able to select taxpayer cell phone or taxpayer email. Of course, both of these items need to be filled out on that client data screen. So again, on that client data screen, you fill out the cell phone or the email, and then you can choose which method you would like for them to receive a secure link where they log in with their first and last name, last four of their social, and their birthday, I believe. And then they'll be able to review their documents and sign. Once you click OK, that link will be sent out to them. I can go ahead and I click Sign Document, and now as you see, it's asking me to sign right here on the page. I can sign with my computer mouse, and this is a taxpayer. and then you will be able to see this load. So that will load for us. And then we do auto-populate client letters here, and this could look really, I don't know how it looks. Hopefully you guys can just see a little bit. Just want to show how our signatures populate. So once you set up your preparer signature, your ERO signature, one time it populates on all areas of the tax return, and then so does the taxpayer there. So go ahead and we'll click X. Once you close out the PDF, that does lead me to our document archive real quick. And we go ahead and now we see that I have my signed full tax return stored for me, time, date, and stamp. And I also have my initial one for me too. The document archive is a folder for each of your taxpayers where you can upload documents by simply clicking the import button and then the three dots, and you can browse your computer and you can select the files to upload to the document archive for that taxpayer. Once you go ahead and you upload it, it will now be stored in the document archive here. So just take really advantage of that document archive so you guys can help be paperless. You're not having to print your tax returns, or even when your taxpayer comes into the office, you can take pictures or scan them right into your computer and upload them and not have a whole filing cabinet behind you. Once you gather your signatures, you can, again, print menu. Now you can also email the tax return to your taxpayer. You could go to print email copy of the tax return right here, and then it will send a PDF copy to your taxpayer. Once we've gathered those signatures, now we printed, the last two steps are to queue your tax return. Right here is a function key. Queuing it will put it now in the transmission window. So when I hit Q, you will have the option of Q federal and Q state. You can select if you have federal and state both, one or the other. So I'm going to stick with Q federal and then Q. Now, as you see, I got prompted that the tax return is locked, and now it has spit me back out to my client lookup screen. If I look at my transmission window, and you see I have a lock here on the left-hand side, I can click transmit. And just as a note, when you're on your transmission window, we do have what's called a filter button. That filter button will show you the tax returns that you have queued, that are waiting in queue to transmit. So you don't always have to transmit the tax returns. Let's say if I'm not ready to send this return off, I can unselect it and it won't be transmitted off. It would stay in the queue window per se. So just know you do have control over that, and you can always unselect it or remove it from queue by just clicking remove. Once you have it selected, and it's already selected for you, you will click the transmit button. When you click transmit, then it goes off to our central site into the IRS there. So we've recapped on how to complete a return within our software. And I'm just going to toggle real quick back into our PowerPoint here so we could just go over those steps for us. Okay. And let me just get back to that page. So the 9 steps to completing a return. We filled out our client data screen. We added primary and secondary forms. We fill out the 8879. We verify tax return. That's our error diagnostic. So it's going to bring you through each of your errors and making sure you complete them in order to transmit. You want to make sure you're going on your invoice and collecting your preparer fees. Then you can require your signatures, whether they're in office or you're sending a remote signature link. You can print and save your tax return. You can email it to your taxpayer. You queue the tax return first to offer that function key within the tax return, and then finally you transmit the tax return on your work in progress page. So those are the 9 key steps to completing a return. Lastly, for me to go over, I would like to go over our TaxPass mobile app. So it is an app where you can market to your taxpayers in order to start a tax return. They'll be able to start that client data form for you, and they can actually take pictures of their documents. In order to do so, you do need a QR code or a mobile app ID. And where do you find that for the desktop users is within your CrossLink tax portal. So when you log in and you go to Support and Manage Mobile App Management, you will see Generate QR Code. And then it will look just like it does there in the screenshot. And that's the QR code that you can print on any marketing material, or just make sure you're giving it off to your taxpayers. So this way, when they download the app, they create an account, they then enter in or scan the code. Once they scan the code, they will be able to submit their tax return to you, and it will show up in the software. And how does it show up in the software is you will see on this work in progress page, I mentioned that tax return queue. The last option there is called TaxPass Mobile App Retrieval. When you click on that, a table will then appear, and it will show you the tax returns that you have ready for import. When you click on it, it will then be added to that client lookup list where you see all your tax returns. So again, TaxPass is an app for your taxpayers to start their tax return, take pictures of their documents, submit it to your office via that QR code or the mobile app ID, and then you can import it and finish it within the tax software. So for today, we've covered a lot. We covered how to navigate CrossLink Desktop, how to do a tax return with those 9 key steps, and then I just briefly showed TaxPass, what it could do, how to set it up, again, in your CrossLinkTax.com portal. You log in, get your QR code, and then make sure your taxpayers submit it, and you'll be able to import the return right there on your tax return queue of TaxPass Mobile App Retrieval. And it looks just like this. Once you go ahead and you click on Mobile App Retrieval, you'll see the tax return, first and last name, and you could be able to click Import. Once that's done, it will be added to your client lookup list. Good luck to everyone and get ready for tax season.